everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. We have yet another webinar, a great webinar, and we're going to be talking about veteran education benefits. So come on in and have a seat. As I always ask, if you could go ahead and let us know where you're coming from, what institution that you're at in the chat, we would like to know. This webinar will be recorded, and as soon as it becomes available, I will be sending it out to you. There's also a very short survey, about 6 questions at the end of the webinar, and if you could complete that on our behalf, we would definitely appreciate it. So thank you again, and I'm just going to allow for a few more people to come in, and we'll get started because, like I said, we have a great webinar for you today. So it looks like we have Seminole State, we have University of Incarnate Word, we have let's see here, Kahoma Community College, Amarillo College. Thank you guys, and come on in. They're already saying hi to you, Eloy.
Come on in.
Yes. So thank you so much. And they are pouring in. All right. And as they're coming in, just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our speakers today. So we're going to start off with Eloy Gomez. Eloy served in the Marine Corps from 2008 to 2012, and he had 2 deployments to Afghanistan, Operation Enduring Freedom. He began his career at Texas A&M University, Kingsville in 2012 as a VA work study and moved up from there to a veteran coordinator and now serves as Director of Military and Veteran Services, where he assists veterans in obtaining educational, financial, social services, and other benefits available through the federal, state, and or local legislation. Eloy has a VAAS in criminology, a master's in science, and he is currently pursuing his doctorate of education in educational leadership at Texas A&M University, Kingsville. Thank you very much, Eloy, for agreeing to present to us on such a very important topic, and welcome. Next, we have Nina Gonzalez. Nina graduated from LeTourneau University with a bachelor's degree in business management and earned a master's in business administration from Concordia University, Texas. With over 25 years of higher education experience, she now serves as institutional support consultant to 17 Hispanic serving institutions and historically Black colleges. In her former roles, she served in and over areas of financial aid, student accounts, student experience, veteran services, first generation, developing scholars and behavioral intervention committees, adjunct faculty, and director of University One Stop Shop. She has a passion for student advocacy, serving, and being a voice for those in need. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you so much for joining us. I did see Alabama State coming in, and I'm trying to see Bishop. Welcome, West Texas A&M University in Canyon, Atlanta Metropolitan State College in Atlanta. We welcome you. So I'm going to go ahead and get the PowerPoint started here, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Nina.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you all again for joining us today. I am very excited to be hosting today's webinar and extremely grateful for our presenter, Eloy Gomez. He's going to be sharing his knowledge and his expertise, some best practices, and even some professional and personal experience with serving and working with our military students. As Teresa mentioned, I worked in a university for a little over 14 years. And in part of my tenure there, I was the certifier for veteran education benefits, as well as the trainer for different staff and faculty that would be engaging with this population. And I quickly recognized that this can be a pretty daunting experience. Sometimes it can be overwhelming and intimidating for our students, which could create some challenges, but also recognize that this is a very special population. They're very unique. They bring a lot of value to the campuses, but they also bring some of their own challenges and barriers. So like first generation students and minority students, they sometimes require, and not only require, but they deserve some special attention and some resources and services that as student advocates that we need to provide for them. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go over retaining and recruiting and supporting our veteran students. I'm going to start with just some quick definitions. That way, if anybody on our call today is new or they're not familiar with the veteran population, that they'll recognize them as we're answering some of the questions and asking some of the questions. So we're not going to get into the details of the different types of benefits, but we are going to talk about those. So we're going to go over just the definition of military students and the different types of benefits. We'll talk about barriers and challenges in the recruiting process, what we can do to support and create sense of belonging with our student. That helps retention and that helps graduation. And then just the different strategies that we can use to kind of eliminate some of those barriers and challenges. We'll kind of go over the stakeholders, the key stakeholders and resources that are needed to make this successful for our military population. And then at the end, we'll just talk about some takeaways, what Mr. Gomez thinks we need to take away from this presentation. And then we'll briefly go over a survey that we created and that our Trellis Research Department can assist our schools with to help you kind of gauge where your student experience is with your military students and how we can help. Next slide, please. So what is a military student? So an active military student is going to be a person who works for the military full time. They can also be deployed at any time. The reserve and the guard can be called full-time military or deployed at any time. And then our veteran students are going to be a person who served in the active military, naval or air service, and who was discharged or released under conditions other than dishonorable. Next. So active duty, reserve, and veteran students make up a large population of students that are enrolled in the college and universities. These students are often extremely disciplined and very goal-oriented, but often they face some challenges relating to students and professors and just adjusting to student life. A lot of times our military population are also just coming out of service, so they're kind of getting acclimated not only to civilian life, but student life. So here are just some key research points that I wanted to go over before we get started. In 2020, 80% of our military students were full-time students. What does that tell us? That a lot of them, again, the veteran students are also adult students. They're married and they're working at least 35 hours a week. So they're trying to juggle being a full-time student as well as having, outside of that, family life. 2/3 of military students are first-generation students. So that's important to talk about because first-generation students bring their own set of barriers and sometimes, and then if they're also a military student, they've got their own set of unique challenges and barriers. So they might bring double. And that's very important that we recognize that when we're working with this population of students. Also, approximately 79% of student veterans are enrolled in degree-seeking programs at public institutions. So what does that tell us? That tells us that we have a large population of students that we could be serving, retaining, graduating. And then I thought it was important to talk about 7% of veteran students suffer from PTSD, but only 50% seek help. And why I wanted to bring that up, it kind of goes into our next slide, but a lot of them don't seek help. And when I was working with students as a director of our one-stop shop, I got to know a lot of the veteran students that were either active military and their families. And there's a lot of stereotypes. So there's a lot of stereotypes that they're angry or easily irritable or they're withdrawn. And it's our responsibility to really get to know these students and serve them and kind of figure out where they're at so that we can help them because that's actually the exact opposite. A lot of them aren't, angry and irritable. They have a lot of unique characteristics that we're going to talk about. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here's some unique and experiential characteristics of what I've encountered and I know that our veteran and active military students bring to the table. They're respectful, they're loyal, geopolitical, they're very resilient. A lot of them have leadership skills. When I was adjunct faculty, a lot of our veteran students would kind of just take the role on themselves and be leaders in our classroom. They're very intercultural. They have a very high level of integrity, courage, strength. They're committed, honorable, determined, disciplined, and intelligent. So here's the list of the veteran benefits that you might see in schools. And again, we're not going to go into the details of what each one of these means. That would be an entirely separate webinar. But I kind of just wanted to touch on everything so that when we're talking and we're asking Mr. Gomez questions, if he refers to any of these, that you at least know what he's talking about. So some of the most popular ones are Chapter 33, which is the post 9/11 GI Bill. We've got the Survivors and Dependents Educational Assistance, which a lot of time is deferred to as DEA. That's Chapter 35. Active Duty GI Bill is going to be Chapter 30. Selected Reserve GI Bills, Chapter 1606. The Post-Vietnam Era Veterans is the Chapter 32. We've got the Veteran Readiness and Employment, used to be referred to, I believe, as VOC Rehab. That's Chapter 31. Personal Career Planning and Guidance is Chapter 36. There's Tuition Assistance. We have the Yellow Ribbon Program. And then as Eloy and Teresa and I were talking for the state universities, there's also the Hensel-Hazelwood Act. So that we're going to not refer to the PowerPoint. We're going to get to our presentation right now. This is something that we're going to talk to at the end. So Teresa already introduced Mr. Gomez. So we're going to go ahead and start talking right now. The major bulk of what we're going to talk about is the barriers and challenges in the different processes of the student cycle for our military students. So first question, Mr. Gomez, or what barriers and challenges are you seeing in recruiting military students?
Well, thank you, Nina. And I'm sorry, before I get to the question, Teresa, thank you for that introduction. And Nina, thank you for having me and for everyone joining and giving me the opportunity to share and reflect on some of our practices that we are in pursuit for veteran success. Before I go into the questions, I wanted to give a small little office bio about our area, just so other schools, institutions could maybe try to relate on how we might be different from theirs, or if they might find similarities in our student enrollments. But yes, we're the Military Veteran Resource Center here at Texas A&M Kingsville. We fall under the Enrollment Management Division. For our office, we have 2 school certifying officials, myself and our veteran coordinator, Ms. Doreen Gonzalez. In our office, at any time, you might be able to find 2 to 3 work studies during the summer. We are typically lucky if we get 1. Mm-hmm. We recently moved over to a larger location, which was a big step up for our office. We are able to provide more offices for our students that we also use whenever we welcome some outside entities to come to our office. If they want to work with veterans and have a private space, they have that opportunity to. Our new area also includes a study room for our veterans. We have our veterans lounge located in our area, and before it used to be separate if we had one. And another positive thing about our new location is that we're in a part of the university that doesn't have as much student traffic. So where we were previously located was in the Student Union building, where there was a lot of student traffic, especially during the lunchtime. It could feel overwhelming at times for some of our students, especially getting caught up in the traffic. So now that we have this open area that doesn't have as much traffic, it's more welcoming for our students. We went over also some of the statistics in the presentation. A few of our student statistics is just wrapping up this spring. We serviced 75 veterans, 10 service members, and 280 dependents. When we break them down to veteran percentages, 25% were female and 75% were male. When it comes to our certification processes, we service about 40% for federal benefits and 60% for Hazelwood type of benefits. Our veteran retention rate or persistence rate has averaged around 80%, and our undergrad student veterans yielded around 86%. 78% of our student veterans were full-time undergraduates, and 38 reported as first generation. I know there are some of the statistics that were brought up earlier, and I just wanted to share some of that information just to kind of get an idea of our office and who we service. So I believe the first question that you asked was, what are some of the barriers or challenges when it comes to recruiting military students? One of the difficult things about recruiting military students is there's no centralized location to gather. Unlike high school recruiting events where they're gathered in the massive, where we're able to go and approach the students, there isn't that type of environment for these veterans. Another issue is a lot of times for those who are getting ready to discharge, they're not stationed locally. So for our area that doesn't have a duty station where they're able to discharge and stay within our area, they're more likely to return home rather than stay in our area to continue to go to school. Other issues that we sometimes come across is the discharge dates for discharging veterans isn't really aligned with a start of the semester. Discharging could happen at any time during the year, depending on the contract. So because of this, it's really difficult for some of these veterans to find themselves in an ideal situation to start school. Now, this could go either way. Either they will discharge and with enough time that'll help them prepare to start college and start looking into everything, or it's going to force them into the workforce so they could continue to get that income to live off it. So once they enter the workforce, it might be difficult for them to consider education as an opportunity for them. I hope that answered it.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So one of the things that we talked about is, eliminating some of the barriers, and sometimes the application process can be kind of daunting. What are some of the things that Texas A&M Kingville tailors their application process to communicate to BA students that their personalized needs are going to be met once they attend Texas A&M Kingsville?
One of the very first things we need to consider is to identify the students, identify them, identify their goals, kind of bring to light some of the barrier that they might have with their living situation or transportation. So anything surrounding what's going to allow them to come to school, we need to be able to identify. Also, we need to be able to help identify what benefits they'll be eligible for and help explain to them what their benefits are, what they consist of, and some of the limitations of it. A lot of times they'll do some of the research on their own, and it's great whenever a veteran comes into the office and they've looked into it, but sometimes it's, the wording could, it could get mixed up. So,
right.
But as soon as they enter the office, it's the first step, and we're able to make a plan to see what they do qualify for and a plan to kind of maximize that eligibility. A lot of times they'll come in with, ready to go to graduate school. So we're trying to figure out what benefits they'll have to complete their undergrad and where grad school might be an option for them. But also during the application process, this gives us an opportunity to identify any maybe red flags that could pop up with your application, and it allows us to get an early start on resolving them. Sometimes the Apply Texas application might have some of the wording, difficult to understand for someone who hasn't filled one out in a while, but that's good. We have some that come in with residency issues because of the living arrangement that they've had while they were stationed or while they were deployed. They may have degree path questions, or they might have a lot of transfer credits that they gained before they joined the military or that they gained during the military. So those are some of the process that we're able to identify within the application process for them.
Thank you. So we talked about in some ways that veteran students are similar to first generation students and minority students, and how it's important to celebrate them. Excuse me. In the recruiting process, we know that it's important to let military students know that their services are appreciated. Is there anything specific that you guys do to recognize military service students during the admission process? I know we talked about kind of looking at what their different benefits and challenges and stuff like that was going to be, but is there anything specific that you guys do to celebrate their services as they're coming in and onboarding?
This is one of the processes that I feel we could always improve on. There's a few like that, and this is one of them that I think we need to refocus some of our efforts and really start celebrating their service more. One thing that I do like to do with our students is, once we've already completed all of the onboarding and we have everything situated for their classes, payment to the school, we have them in our office. I like to give them a small tour of our area and let them know that this is their space. This isn't just our office to conduct work. This is their dedicated space for them to be at throughout their entire educational career. It also gives us an opportunity for us to explain what they should expect for the rest of their education career, how the process is going to work, and what they need to do in order to keep it going for them. A lot of these our area, since it is open to them, any visits are lead into a good personal conversation, and we just encourage them to kind of revisit our office as soon as they can and discuss their experiences throughout the year. One of our better practices, I think, in recognizing service comes afterwards with the graduation packets. Our student organization created this initiative to recognize them. So when they are ready to graduate, they get a graduation packet that could consist of a stole, graduation cord, and a challenge coin that gets presented to them. And for those that are graduating within the fall semester, these usually get recognized during our Veterans Day ceremony. That usually has a lunch involved, but it's also a good opportunity for them to invite their friends, their family, and turn it into a really nice photo opportunity for them.
I did, Nina, have some people also mentioned in the chat. I kind of put that question in the chat as to, what are other campuses doing to make their veterans feel welcome. I kind of wanted to share them. I did have James Thompson. James, if you could tell me what institution you represent. I didn't see it on here. I kind of wanted to make sure that we all know what institution you're at. But he said basically that they host a welcome back event at the beginning of each semester to allow veterans to meet each other and discuss concerns. This is held in our student veteran lounge. And then I also have Lewis from Florida A&M, who said that we have a veteran orientation session on the first day of new student orientation. This is open to all military connected students except ROTC students. And they also have a military appreciation football game. Wow, that seems great.
Oh,
and
cool.
James, yeah. And then James is from West Texas A&M University. Thank you guys for sharing. And I also had one question that came in. This is mainly due to the state of Texas, but wanted to know if you could explain the difference between VA benefits and benefits via the Hazelwood Act. That question did come in as well. Thank you.
Well, when I explain, I guess the differences between some of the federal benefits and the state benefits is I let them know that they are handled by two different entities. One is handled by benefits awarded by the Veterans Benefits Administration, and the other one is a state benefits. So while one of the misconception that I hear a lot is, sometimes the families just still trying to gather information. They'll come into the office and be under the impression that they heard from somebody that they heard that since their family member served in the military, their tuition or school is entirely going to get paid for. Now, that might have a bit of truth to it in different ways, but every benefit is going to cover something differently. Some other students will also communicate with their friends or their family, and they'll start comparing not so much the type of benefit that they're receiving, but what's being covered. So for a student who's receiving the post 9/11 GI Bill, where they're getting their tuition completely paid for, they're getting a monthly allowance, and they're getting money for their books and supplies, a student who's just receiving the Hazelwood Act is going to get their tuition covered and none of the other stuff. So that raises questions on why is this person getting this covered and why aren't I? But that, again, it's difficult to say the difference between all of the federal benefits because each one does work differently in how they assist covering different educations of education.
And then I know we kind of talked that we weren't going to get in the nitty gritty of all this, but you talked about, students and parents talking to one, somebody they know and friends and family. And it's also important to know, like with Hensel Hazelwood, you can be a school in Texas, but if you're a private university, you're not going to be eligible. So there's a lot of details and stipulations to all the different VA benefits and what they'll be eligible for. And that's why it's important to have people like Eloy in all of his office that the students can talk to when they go in. So just a little bit more on recruiting. I think recruiting is very, very important, but I always like to say it's not just the best practices of recruiting. It's what we're going to do once they get there to support them and make sure they graduate. But have you found that maybe there are some recruiting strategies that didn't work or some that work better than others?
Well, for veterans, our veterans are non-traditional students, so we have to have this non-traditional type of approach on recruiting. One of our better practices, and again, it goes back to, it's difficult because there's no centralized location for us to go and to meet with all of the discharging veterans since they're discharging from different parts of the world. But what I've found is encouraging communication from our students. If we provide excellent customer service, they're more likely to tell their friend, kind of similar to how some people join the military. They'll join on the buddy program. Well, one of them might get out before the other. And so if they're attending school here and they've had a good experience and their friend is now discharging, it's probably a good chance that they'll end up joining with them. I've already seen that here a few times. A small little story on that is even for non-military students, either them being benefit users or not. For myself, when I started here, I was already getting ready to discharge in 2012. My youngest sister just graduated high school. So she was starting college here at Kingsville. So I put my confidence that she did all of her research and I followed her, navigated towards St. Luke, but she left and I never, and I'm still here. But I think that has the legacy aspect has a lot of weight on recruiting students in just naturally through someone else's presence. We have at least 4 different families here where not only is the student attending, but so is their parents. So, but also participating in any outreach events, that's a really good opportunity to get information out there. Don't pass on the opportunity on passing information. They might have, while they might not be eligible for benefits, they might know someone or have a family member that is discharging soon. So if we share that information with them and they're ready to get out and they're looking for questions, then they could go to their family member about it and we might get recommended.
Great. Thank you. So what I'm hearing too is y'all do an excellent job at meeting the students where they are, which is very important when you're working with non-traditional students. So then we're going to go into more of the supporting students. What barriers and challenges have you and your team experienced in providing support and building relationships with your military students?
We're a two-man office. And sometimes it's that's probably one of our biggest difficulties, especially if one of us is out and one of us needs to, run somewhere else. And I really don't like to leave the office unmanned. There is something that we were able to come up with while in the event that does happen, which is kind of provide a quick QR code at our door if we are closed for a few minutes, just so if someone does come by between that period where we're out, they're able to scan it and leave all of their information, contact information, and a question that as soon as we get back, it's kind of like the concept of it is like a voicemail before real life visits. And we've used that in a few different situations already, and it's proven to work out. But also, ensuring that we are in compliance with the VA. Some students might not know some of the limitations to their benefits. And so we need to explain the do's, the don'ts, and the won'ts from the VA.
Excellent. That QR code, I've never heard of that. So that's awesome. And I like that you're our presenter today, because honestly, we didn't have a designated VAs at the university that I work with, and working with multiple universities, that does seem to be a lot of the challenge, is the staff, the bandwidth to serve all of the students. So I really appreciate you being here today, and everybody just giving each other ideas of how we can do the best job that we can do with what we have. So what I know that inside of your VA office, we have the certification processes and different things that we have, but are there any additional resources that your offices provide to meet the needs of your military students, or do you work with other people to provide additional resources for the needs that they may have?
Yes. Again, our new location, we encompass almost the entire front wing of our building. And also recently, TEMU just got approved for a grant program, the Veterans Upward Bound program, that is also right in our area. So it's not only the Military Veteran Resource Center, but we also have the Veterans Upward Bound connected within our area. But the different resources that we have is we have a book loan library, and this was a student veteran program started by them. They created a raffle where all a student had to do was turn in a book, and they would get a raffle ticket. So this created, just the raffle alone created the entire start of the library. And after we built up enough books, when students started using them, it became self-sufficient in the sense that not only were they returning the book that they borrowed at the end of the semester, but they're donating a book that they no longer needed because they've already completed the course. So it's a program that's, again, been self-sufficient since the start of it. We also have our Veterans Lounge, and I think it's a pretty good lounge. We offer different amenities in there, just relaxing in the couch, fridge, coffee stations, and the purpose of it was kind of more commuter-based. So students could have a space to be between classes. We also have our study room that has multiple computers there that are hooked up to our printer. They get a limited free printer, so they don't need to top up their printer card. We have a laptop station that's open, so if they didn't want to be on the computer but have their a few different books open with their laptop out, they're able to do that. And also offering just some of your basic supplies, pens, notebook, paper, Scantrons are one of our biggest products that we go by because they forgot they had an exam. They hadn't picked up any Scantrons from Amazon. So they'll come by our office and we'll hand them out a few.
Fabulous. Thank you. So we all know if you've ever been a VA certifier, the process can impact students and their experience. Even sometimes when we've done everything we can, it can still create, kind of an not so positive experience. Is there anything that you do? Can you give a brief overview of your certification process and any details that you have that make your process a little bit more VA friendly for your students?
We start off by, again, identifying the students, identifying where they're at in the admission process. Sometimes they'll come to us before they've been admitted, but that's still an opportunity to start some of the other areas that need to be completed. But once we've established that they've been admitted or enrolled in classes, have already completed that first step, then we need to then communicate with them with what they've done as far as their pay benefits. Maybe they've already applied for the benefit and they've already received their COE, or they're just not sure which benefit they need to use. So that's the next step in getting them completed for the certification process, is making sure that they are eligible for the benefit that they're going to be receiving. And then we have our request for certification, which has moved over to the online request for certification. And this has been another area that we've continually worked on with making it both easier for the student and for our office. It's gone through different phases of progression, and we make sure that we explain the importance of the request for certification and how it works as that communication between the student and our office. It also outlines the limitations of their benefits and what they can expect from it. So once they do that online request for certification, we get that digital response that gets added to our worksheets. Once we have it in our worksheets, we use whatever system that's being used. Banner is our system, and we fill it in with all of the other students' information, like the courses. We run a degree audit to make sure that the courses are accounting. And once all of that's completed, then we'll certify with an enrollment manager. As soon as that's completed, we'll communicate with whatever office or department we need to either place funds or the waiver, so that if we know we're going to be expecting money, that they're not getting assessed any late fees or any charges.
Great, thank you. So then we're going to move on to the retention piece of this. Can you share some challenges that you see in retaining your military students, whether it be, outside factors or things that going on within your campus?
One of the biggest changes that a student will come across is how we communicate. So them getting used to email, instead of having the email for a Netflix login, it's now going to be their primary source for communication. And it takes a while for them to get used to that. It takes even a little bit longer for them to get used to using their student email. But that's a challenge within itself, especially since that's our primary way of communicating. But there are also factors along the semester that will pop up, even though they'll plan for some of these instances, like within personal family matters. With it being recurring so often, it might just prove difficult for them. So now they have to choose between a sick family member at home or maybe no childcare and them attending class. Other challenges could also be with employment. Their hours are getting bumped up and are now interfering with classes, or even just the distance between where they live, our campus, and where they work at. It just might be too much for them. For those also students who are employed, we found that some of them are not going to be fully attending full time. So because they're not attending full time, they get the sense of uncertainty because it prolongs any of the completion, and then it starts to get discouraging because they've attended for a few years, but they've only completed maybe the first quarter of a program.
Thank you for sharing. You did already mention that you guys have a military veteran organization on campus. Can you elaborate on the details of the organization? For example, who it's led by, the type of activities that y'all have, the events, maybe the percentage of your students who are members, and then also kind of elaborate maybe on the importance of this organization, because I know there are some institutions that do not have a military or veteran organization. So I do want to talk about the importance of having that and how it links to retaining your military students.
Okay, yes. We have a Student Veterans of America chapter at our university. When it's active, it's an organization that I advise. I've been with the organization since we founded it back in 2013 by a friend of mine. And it's student-led. Really like to put it all on the students for them to kind of develop their own idea of this organization. But it usually consists of different forms of fundraising for future events or future projects. It also consists of volunteer opportunities that they're able to do with some of our outside entities like the VFW or the Legion, and also partner with other organizations with the university. After COVID, we saw a big decline in veteran participation, and it's been difficult to get up to where we were. We did try different approaches to it, like creating an online only meeting type of schedule, but we're still trying to figure out what we need to think about differently to bring it back to life. But it's a great organization and really does offer our students a sense of belonging within the organization, peer networking, and also with the transition from military to the school. A lot of times what I like seeing is whenever there's multiple students within the same program, maybe just a few semesters apart, they're able to kind of just serve as a natural guide or a mentor for this other veteran throughout the program. But I think right now, to get back to where we were, is we need to be able to identify our veteran student leaders within the university, the ones that just other veterans will naturally navigate to.
Nina, if you don't mind, I had a couple of questions that came in online, and I kind of want to ask those. So either you or Eloy can answer. One of them is, what are some programming ideas that pertain to retention efforts that can target veterans?
Do you know if they mean programs as far as academic programs or like organizations? And
David, if you can clarify. And while you're clarifying, I'm gonna go to the next one. It says, is there a veteran peer program at Kingsville?
Not formally. Again, one that does pop up, it's really informal between two veterans. It's an area that we have looked into, and it's a really good idea, but with the low amount of personnel, it's really difficult for us to oversee programs like that. We've come down to kind of where do we need to prioritize some of our efforts. Not saying that itself isn't a priority, but with our student veterans, one thing that we want to keep on top of is their pay, their tuition, and just the start of their education experience.
Okay. And then David did clarify, he said both academically and student affairs. What are some programming ideas that pertain to retention efforts that can target veterans, if you have any?
One area, one thing that we also have a chapter of is the Salute program. Salute program also itself has lost a little bit of participation, but the Salute program is a veterans honors program that recognizes both their service and their academics.
Great. Thank you, Eloy. So this kind of leads up to maybe the question that he was asking, but what are some challenges that you think impede academic success for military students? And I know you've talked about a lot of your services, but what services do y'all offer specifically to combat the academic challenges? Maybe tutoring, services?
One thing that's, we've fallen behind on is student programs itself. So I had to kind of think a little bit outside the box on, if it's something that's a little too much for our office right now to keep providing, then what can we do to still offer these programs just without so much of our input. So, we looked at we looked at putting our confidence in with the expertise of our partnering offices. So, just last semester, we had our Disability Resource Center hold a luncheon that gave them an opportunity to discuss all of the resources that can be found over there that was able to get translated to our students. But not just our internal offices, we also have external partners like the Vet Center for one of them. We've partnered with the Vet Center for them to make a presence every, I believe it's the last Wednesday of every month. And while they were coming by, it just got larger and larger. And by the last visit, not only did they bring the mobile vet center, but they brought outside partners of their own, like a veterans advocacy counselor, claims representative, and someone with the VA healthcare. So it was the idea was, if it's difficult to get these students out there to the resources, then what can we do to bring the resources over to them? And that last event with the Vet Center was one of our biggest ones. And I believe 8 veterans walked away with claims appointments. Another 5 got set up for their health care. And it was just a successful event all the way around.
Absolutely. That sounds fantastic. And you brought up a very good point that sometimes, colleges and universities may not have the staff or the bandwidth to provide all the resources, but if you know where to direct them to, that way they're not having to figure out on their own, that's also extremely helpful. So I'm going to ask, so what resources would you say, or any kind of information are mandatory for the successful recruitment and retention of your students? So for our colleagues that are on these calls that are either developing centers or don't have the opportunity to develop a center, what are some mandatory things that you think that are mandatory for successful recruitment and retaining?
I think it goes down to customer service, only because customer service can be dissected in so many ways. It's going to have a lasting impact on how the students are going to respond throughout their entire college career. And it also gives you an opportunity to show them the confidence with the work that you're providing, the support that you're providing, and reassuring them that you're in good hands. It lets them know that they have an office dedicated to not just working with them with education benefits, but also an office that is supporting them throughout their college career.
Okay,
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I do have a participant who has a question. So I'm going to go ahead and let you ask that question, Andrew. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. So if you unmute yourself, you're able to talk. Go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, hi, I'm Andy Lyons from St. Mary's University. And one of the things that we did here was I actually reached out to the surrounding schools that have veterans, the Incarnate Word, UTSA, and Texas A&M. And what we do is we get together for lunch as the SCOs, and we actually brainstorm on basically a monthly basis. And going back to what we did to engage with people, we created blue tags that will say veteran on it that I had my students put on their book bags. So this way, hopefully other veterans will be able to identify them. They could identify other veterans to start the conversation going. And I made the SVO as part of my orientation for when the students come in. I actually have the SVO talk, because what you were saying before with the engagement with the lounge, that's the key thing. Now, like where you're an office of two, I'm an office of one. I'm it. So that's why I appreciate some of the things you're saying in terms of the push for it. The school's trying, but this is a brand new office, because before it was just part of financial aid. So that's what we're trying to work on. So I know that was more of a speech than a question.
No, that's a really good idea, especially with identifying our student veterans. We had a similar idea just to make this area more welcoming. And since we've, again, moved into this new area with now more doors, one area that we wanted to do to help guide them was paint our door trims green, so that they know that if they see a green door trim, that it's going to be an area that they're able to come into and present any issues that they might have.
All right, thank you.
Lions.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Those are the kind of ideas that I love to hear. The painted doors and the tags. Those are the creative ideas that the other universities can put into place, even if you don't have a lot of resources. We're cutting it close, but there's a couple of things that I want to make sure that we go over. Can you comment real quick on the importance of having your office staffed with individuals who have personally served, and how that impacts your student experience, the student experience and retention?
That's going to have a lot of benefits, within itself. It gives up the students and the staff members an opportunity to connect, to share stories, reminisce. Whenever I see other Marines who came from Hawaii into my office, I just, the conversation starts going. But not only just in the importance isn't just in VA offices, but other offices as well. Having veterans in our admissions office, registrar, business office, wherever, it's a natural communication between us that we're able to focus on a situation for this veteran and help kind of resolve it as soon as possible. Other veterans we have one in athletics. So whenever if we're trying to work on a program together or collaborate, he's going to be the point of contact for the athletics. But really, almost anyone with military affiliation relation can provide a new level of support, and also some different external experience. For example, my other SEO, or Doreen Gonzalez, her father is a Vietnam veteran, and she is great with families. But not only is she great with families, but she also brought 15 years of business office experience over to our office. So it's just reassuring to let our students know that our office has experience in different areas of other than just the military type of benefits.
Thank you, Eloy. And I want to kind of bring this up as we were talking about best practices, that if you are a college or a university that has problems or has difficulty recruiting people to come and work on your campus in the other offices that are affiliated with the military, to try to take time to get out and either talk or just do focus groups or some sort of training with your other departments, and kind of familiarize them with some of the challenges and barriers that your VA students may be going through. So even if they're not somebody that has dealt with it directly, that they kind of know what to look for and kind of assess. That way those students still feel like they can trust that person, or that they understand, instead of just bouncing them off to you guys because you're a 2-person office or a 1-person office. So best practices is that it's very important in familiarizing all the departments. that's one of the reasons that I would go and do some training with the other departments, just so that they're familiar. And when they have that student or that family in front of them, that person that's there to help them doesn't just look like a deer in the headlights, right? And they don't, because they'll feel that, right? And it's all about the student experience. Teresa said there was another person that had a question real quick about how your campus works on getting VA organizations started.
I usually I go to the person that's in charge of the organization. It's something that we frequent every now and then, because one year, some years the organization might be more active than others. But our campus has the Javelina Student Engagement Center that oversees the organizations. So finding out, I guess, what engagement office there is that oversees the organizations and getting with them. Our point of contact it's more than helpful with any questions that we have, and really good with reminders on what's needed to get it started.
Looks like Andrew had one.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you were raising your hand again or you hadn't taken it down. So if you have some more feedback that you want to share, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Okay. Going back to how you started an SVO, because we really didn't have one here. Oh, the first thing is we have a beginning school barbecue. And one of the things we did that worked out was we actually reached out to HEB and they gave us $600 towards our barbecue. The only stipulation they have is when they have two stipulations. One, they like pictures, send them pictures. And two, no alcohol. In other words, you can't use their money to buy alcohol. You could buy it for the food and whatever. So that was just, so if you're a little cash strapped, HEB is a great way to reach out. The way I got the Student Veterans Organization started here was I just sent out a bunch of emails to all my veterans who wanted to get something started. And we started off with 3 or 4 people, and now we've got about 50. And so, and it's word of mouth, and it's, you also have to give things. Like I had challenge coins made. I had different things like that made, because like anything else, there has to be something in it for them. We picked tasks. St. Mary's did not have priority veteran registration. Well, through the SVO, we had that started now, because the school would always tell me they don't want to hear it from me. They want to hear it from the students. So we just picked out a couple of tasks. Okay, what would you like to see change? And through the SVO, we started having that go through the different faculty councils to provost's office and so on. But it all started with me just reaching out to the veterans saying, hey, who's interested in doing this? And that's honestly how we got it started.
There's one comment I kind of wanted to share real quick. I know we're at the hour, but I do have a comment that says, while I do agree that having a veteran employed in the office can be helpful, none of my current staff is prior service, and we treat our veterans with respect they deserve. Student veterans at HBCUs come with multiple identities beyond their military service, and their military service is sometimes not their primary identity. So I know we have quite a bit of MSIs and HBCUs on the call, so I didn't know if you looked at that statement as to be the same on your campus, but I thought that was very interesting. I just kind of wanted to point that out.
It is, and that was a really good point to bring up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I guess with organizations too, or programs, like that comment said, I mean, a veteran might not be their primary identity. It's part of the transition between leaving the military and joining college. But with programs, for programs that we've held, we held multiple throughout the semester, and some of them will be more successful than others. But I think what's important to keep in mind is that even though these programs may not be getting the attention that or the turnout that you're hoping for, it's important to keep it as an opportunity, as an option for them to always have afforded to them. So just because it didn't work out the first time isn't a reason to take it away a second time. It's something that should be offered for them, because they're going to need it at a different time than someone else.
Thank you, Eloy. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you presenting today. And like Teresa said, I know that we're at the hour, but I just wanted to follow up and end this with letting everybody know. I know there's a lot of questions on how we do this, how we do that. There's a lot of people on here that have had some incredible feedback about ideas, but I did work with one of my schools and we created a student experience survey that's specific to their VA students. We already had a customer experience type survey, but worked with their office and created, and this helped. So this helped them learn about, there was some students that didn't even know there was an organization, right? So it helped them really kind of pick apart where they needed to work and be better for their veteran students. So if that's something that you're interested in, please let us know. It kind of focuses on the military student experience, the actual certification process, awareness and participation in the military and veteran organization. It allowed the VA students to give them feedback on resources and services that they would like to see offered. It touched on mental wellness. And so, like all of our surveys and research, it's customizable. So if this is something that your institution would be interested in, reach out to your ISC and our Trellis Research Department can help you with that.
Yes, and thank you as well, Eloy. Andrew, I'm not sure if you needed to ask another question or another comment. Your hand was up. Wasn't sure if you had anything else that you wanted to say. I do want to remind everyone that I will send out the recording as soon as it's available. And if you can, just complete the about 6-7 question survey after this webinar, we would truly, truly appreciate it. And Eloy, did you have any final words that you would like to say?
Thank you for having me. Like I said, the experience really is going to be dependent on what you're able to provide to them. One thing I like to do is look through the eyes of your students. When's the last time that you filled an application that they did, or when's the last time you've gone through an orientation? Just really consider what they're going through now to get that better understanding of what they're going through. And also don't be afraid to review your own processes. Try to figure out what better ways can you improve things for not only for them, but also for yourself. And thank you for having me.
Right. Nina, did you have any final words? Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Eloy. Thank you, Andrew, also for your comments.
Yes, everybody's comments. I really appreciate all the feedback, and I don't have any final comments. I just want you to know, Eloy, that we really, really appreciate you, and thank you for taking your time out today to be a presenter on our webinar.
Thank you, Nina.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.